contributions on the conversation. I've tried different lives today for some of you who have been joining consistently. I don't know what is wrong, but you all have been complaining no audio. I don't know what it is. My network, I cannot decipher, but please kindly let me know if the sound quality is okay. I would love to know if the sound quality is okay. Happy New Year to you and welcome. Right here on this channel, we'll discuss topical issues across the globe, issues that actually have global impact, and most times we try to find a logical conclusion to what this means and how it can affect us. Basically, conversation is what sets the tone. We look at the geopolitics and we look at future politics, across the world with certain events that have been unfolding, and we make comparisons with antecedents. So my name is Esther Watchcook. Thank you for joining the live. Trump recently told us what other nation he intends to take advantage of or invade, as the word goes. We know what happened with Venezuela, and even before Venezuela, we know what happened in Nigeria on the 25th of December 2025, where Trump actually did what he promised he was going to do if the Nigerian government does not become decisive in tackling insecurity. You saw how House of Rep members came to Nigeria, tried to do an on-the-scene assessment, went to the IDP camp in Benue to see for themselves and hear for themselves gory details of how the terrorists had mutilated, macheted, rustled homes, raped the women, and displaced children from their ancestral lands. House of Rep member Riley Moore actually came back to the United States of America to give a detailed report to the U.S. president. After he did so, the U.S. military along as well started mapping out the northern axis, where they know is a hiding point or the harbinger of this terrorist. And on the 25th of December 2025, while we woke up in the morning, we heard that very early in the morning, the U.S. did what they know how to do. And then we heard that possibly there were no targets. Eventually, we heard that there were indeed targets to hit the enclaves of this terrorist. Now, coupled with the Nigerian Air Force, they became more decisive as well in fighting out these guys, and we saw that they really were getting a lot of hits on this target, but that did not make those guys relent. In fact, they became more brazen. So while they're running away from some of their hiding places, for example, they have been hibernating in Sokoto, they're hibernating in Zamfara, Bauchi, Borno. These are their hotbeds. So while they're running away, they're also taking along with them casualties. 3 days ago, we heard that these guys actually burned 3 villages. ISROP actually did a video showcasing to us the villages that they had burnt. ISROP told us that they had burnt 3 villages. You can imagine how many homes were destroyed in their wake. You have several communities in a village. So imagine burning 3 villages. You can imagine how many homes and crops and plants, cash crops that they had destroyed, all in the name of pursuing an agenda. That's not the only thing. They now decided to be brazen and bold by saying that all Christians in Nigeria are targets. Like, if you're a Christian, you're a standing target, and that they're going to pay with their blood if Christians refuse to convert to Islam. They also went ahead to tell us that if you're a Christian and you refuse to convert to Islam, you will have to pay a tax called the Jayad or Jawad or something like that. Well, since the time Israel made that statement, we hadn't heard anything from the spokespersons of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Also, since the United States of America came and did what they did, the Nigerian government did not even try to have a chat with Nigerians by explaining to us what happened. In fact, it was Donald Trump himself that informed us that he did what they did on the 25th of December. The Nigerian government did not give us any information. They did not even release that information first. It was after Trump did write on Truth Social what transpired on the 25th of December, where we in Nigeria did not even know anything about it. That was when a lot of persons were talking, and it set the tone agog. All through the globe, people were discussing Nigeria, and it brought to the fore how come this kind of massive situation occurred, and it felt like the Nigerian government were kept in the dark. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Toga, came to tell us that the thing that the US did, or the missile that was sent to Sokoto, was obviously a shared intelligence between the Nigerian government and the United States of America. Well, a lot of Nigerians don't believe Yusuf Toga because they expected the Nigerian government to have, first of all, released that information before the United States of America did. And Nigerians felt that even the Nigerian officials did not even know when what happened, meaning that the US kept the Nigerian government in the dark because they do not trust them. There are fears that the Nigerian military leaks vital information to these terrorists. So it's obvious that it's possible and obvious that the American government deliberately kept Nigerian government in the dark until they did what they did. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not surprising. Now, the Nigerian people ask that please, we need you to continue more airstrikes on these guys because they have really truncated us, and we feel like the government of the day has refused to be decisive in tackling these guys. Then two days ago, Trump came out and we heard about the abduction of Nicolas Maduro, the Venezuelan president. Now, a lot of people did not even know what was going on in Venezuela. A lot of people were not even following up with what was going on in Venezuela, unless for a couple of political events enthusiasts who follow news across the globe, whom we have known and heard what has been going on about Venezuela, and Trump consistently talking about Venezuela and how the US ships have been apprehending some of the oil vessels on the high seas, complaining that those oil vessels were illegally carrying arms and cocaine, and that illegal Venezuelan migrants were already pervading the United States of America. And Trump admitted that he called the Venezuelan president and warned him. But we all know what this whole thing means. It's all about the US dollar. The dollar should be the focal point. One of the foreign policies of Trump's government is to resuscitate the respect that they think the United States of America has lost. They felt that the Biden administration actually truncated the respect that America used to have. They felt that Biden administration was very weak and obviously deterred the respect America used to have in the globe amongst its global counterparts. And speaking about Russia, Japan, and China, as well as other G5 or G20 nations. And so Trump wants to resuscitate America's respect by focusing more on foreign policy within this final tenure of his administration. So let's come back to the next port of interest for the United States of America. The next port of interest is Greenland. If you recall, in March 2024, US told us that they wanted to annex Greenland. In fact, they wanted to have access to it. They wanted to purchase Greenland. And why is Trump saying so? Trump is claiming that the island coincides with a visit by his son, Donald Trump Jr., back in January 2024. Now, obviously, what are they saying? They're telling us precisely that why Greenland is very important to them is this. One, Greenland is the world's largest island, and it's a semi-autonomous territory of Denmark with a population of 57,000. It has also been part of Denmark for 600 years. It is also a founding member of NATO, a home to a large military base. It straddles the Arctic Circle between US, Russia, and Europe. The island offers a unique geopolitical advantage that America has eyed for more than 150 years, and it's even more valuable as the Arctic opens up more to shipping and trade, which obviously this shipping and trade is between Russia and China. If you want to ask Trump or the US, just mention you're having a close relationship with China or Russia, and you will see Trump coming as usual. Hi, David Lawson. Is the audio quality better now? I would like to know if you can hear and if the sound is good. I've tried different lives today and I don't know what's wrong with the audio quality. I do hope that it's audible now and that you can hear me perfectly well. If it is not clear, obviously we're not having a conversation. Thank you very much, David Lawson. I sincerely do appreciate you highlighting that. Now, according to Trump and Greenland, he claims that the island is very vital to the United States of America. Now, let's look at other advantages that Greenland has beyond what Trump is telling us. Greenland is a strategic location, and beyond that, it holds rich deposits of various natural resources. All right, it's locked inside the island, and what is inside that island are valuable rare earth minerals. It's needed for telecommunications as well as uranium, billions of untapped barrels of oil, and a vast supply of natural gas that used to be inaccessible but has become less so. Many of the same minerals are currently mostly supplied by China. I told you if you want to get the US attention, just say that you are having a relationship or you're having dealings with China, and voila, you're on your own. So other countries such as the US are interested in tapping into available resources closer to home, so they claim. Now, more than the oil, gas, or minerals, Greenland has a lot of ice and provides a front row seat to the globe's climate crisis. Now, if that ice melts, it would reshape coastlines across the globe and has the potential to dramatically shift weather patterns. In fact, Greenland holds enough ice that if it all melts, the world seas would actually rise. The world sea would actually rise. Greenland also influences hurricane and winter storm activity because of its mountains of ice. It has the power to change patterns in the jet stream, which brings storms across the globe and dictates daily weather. Well, now you hear the basic attention as to why Trump is interested in Greenland. Let's come back to Nigeria. Why is Nigeria a particular source of concern to the United States of America? We do know that some of our oil wells have been sold out. Literally, Nigeria is riding on very limited oil wells as its form of export to generate revenue. Most of Nigeria's vast oil wells have been sold out to its international counterparts, either for trade by barter or even sold out to friends and allies. That the Nigerian government has traded this for certain deals. Some of these deals are for national interest and some are for personal gains. But at the end of the day, is Nigeria benefiting from this oil wells in terms of proceeds? No, only a few persons are benefiting from it. Just very recently, based on an audit that was carried out, it was discovered that 210 trillion naira had disappeared from NNPC and no accountability. In fact, it was from 2017 to 2023. Last year, the EFCC actually decided to take a brazen act by investigating some of the accounts of former MDs and CEOs of NNPCL, and was discovered that large cash of money and Swiss accounts, both home and abroad, were being in charge of these former MDs and CEOs. So they tracked their accounts, and it was discovered that indeed they had siphoned these monies. 210 trillion. The Nigerian government cannot give any form of accountability for it. And the government of the day then was under the former and late President Muhammadu Buhari. Unfortunately, up to now, we have not had the National Assembly put the gavel on the ground to tell us where that money is and for that money to be returned to Nigeria as soon as possible. In December, the Minister of Finance, Mr. Wale Edu, told us that the estimated budget was actually met with a huge deficit of just 10 trillion naira. That's what Nigeria could make. The rest of the money, 30 billion or 30 trillion, was an expenditure. What did the Nigerian government do? They could not generate revenue. Meanwhile, in the same year of 2025, in September, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came and told us that we're no longer relying on export, or we're no longer relying on foreign proceeds. He said that we had capitalized on our budget and we have exceeded the expectation of our budget. Told us that Nigeria made more profit from non-oil revenue. Very interesting, isn't it? Or for the Minister of Finance to come and tell us something different entirely. Again, the Nigerian government has been known to lie, and there's a huge lack of trust. There's no transparency and accountability from the government to the people. Focusing on the 2027 elections, being with what Nigerians are currently experiencing with the government of the day, there are talks that the reason why some of the governors are defecting is that they have been bribed with 50 billion naira or even more, although none of the governors have come to either confirm nor deny, but there are talks by sources that that is how those governors have been brought over by the government of the day. So there will be less resistance at the polling unit in 2027 for whatever rigmaroling they want to go about it. Very recently, on a Monitor television program, Professor Chidi Odinkalu had this to tell us about the Nigerian government. He literally disclosed to us that the Nigerian government intends to utilize the Inec&Judiciary for its own benefit. I'd like us to take a very brief listen to this. It's quite imperative and it was surprising.
The answer that I'd like to give, people will people may get excited, but I think it is fundamentally because Tinubu does not need Nigerian votes to be president.
Oh, wow, but he does need it. He must get it.
No, he does not need Nigerian votes to be president. Tinubu needs judges and Inec to give him a result. If you need votes of your people to be president, he will not be, with profound respect, acting with this degree of irresponsibility and utter disregard for the worth and well-being of Nigerians. No. It is because at the end of the day, let us all be honest. What he needs are the judges and INEC. And if votes counted, Nigerian politicians would not be as irresponsible, from the president down, will not be as irresponsible as they are to behave as if Nigerians do not count. Because for good or for ill, and I agree with you, people, I've spent most of my life working on atrocities and insecurity across the world, and particularly across the African continent. And when you look at the situation, Sudan, in Darfur, for instance, or indeed in the north of Ethiopia, in Tigray, in Sierra Leone, Liberia, where we had the situation in West Africa, in the last decade of the last millennium. The fact is, people who are in trouble, or indeed in the Great Lakes of Africa, right? People who find themselves at the receiving end of a challenging situation do not mind where help comes from. I totally agree. But when that help involves something on the scale of a missile strike on your territory, you do expect that your president will be responsible enough to face his people and say, this is what transpired. And that, to not do that, to not think he owes Nigerians that, and to then leave the country. And while all of that is taking place,
so you had Professor Chidi Odinkalo there, and to be honest with you, he actually made quite the point. The reason is this: when what happened on December 25, 2025, we were expecting President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to address Nigerians, but that did not take place. You know why? Because somehow they think that they do not need to be accountable to Nigerians, and that is why a lot of Nigerians are disturbed about this administration. The fact is, they lack accountability. We heard from the American government about what transpired on December 25. How would you say you are a nation, you do not correspond with your people, you do not hold presidential charts, you do not address the nation? Let me give you an instance. When what happened in Venezuela happened, the United States of America knew that the UN wasn't carried along. The United States of America knew that Congress wasn't carried along. And President Donald Trump admitted that indeed they did not tell the UN and that they did not take the House along. That the reason why they did not do that was to avoid leaks. They felt it was a very sensitive project, and that if anyone had known, the US troops on ground may have been killed, because Venezuela, they have their cartels. We even heard that it was the bodyguards of Nicolas Maduro that betrayed him. But hey, you can never tell. Sometimes, if the president or the government has not been fair or kind to its people, do not be surprised with what you see takes place. But that aside, President Tinubu has not directly spoken with Nigerians. He has rather sent messages through his media aides. Guess what? Do you know that on December 25, the president was not even in Aso Rock, he was in Lagos. And then we later heard that he was organizing, there was an eco festival on the president's behalf. Another funny thing was Nigerians were trapped in a building that caught fire, the GNI building, the Great House building. I don't know if you can remember. Lots of Nigerians' properties were destroyed in that fire, and a couple of them were buried under the rubble. And why there were voice notes flying around that they should please come and help save them because there's no oxygen, the smoke and the debris, they needed to get out. In Lagos, Nigeria's president was was dancing with the Echo Festival. An Echo Festival is a traditional rite organized by the Yorubas in some instances to celebrate something. I don't know what they were celebrating at that point in time, but hey, that was what was taking place while Nigerians were stuck under debris, underground, in a rubble. And while they were seeking for assistance that particular day, they couldn't get one because of that festival that was taking place. It's called the Ayo Festival. The governor of the state as well did not say anything in addressing those who were buried under the rubble. They were stuck there for 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, no help. Three brothers of the same family were trapped in that building, in that rubble, and they eventually died. A man who just returned from China, whose voice note went viral, crying and saying who would take care of his wife, eventually died in that rubble. There was no rescue, and even individual efforts to bring them out could not also help because they refused to allow individuals go close to that arena. They felt that it was very risky. There were no enough excavators to help. Only one was seen. Again, this was during the holiday season. So obviously a lot of services could not be provided. That's not the only thing that took place. Arena Market also caught fire. Ikoto Electric Plaza also caught fire, happening within the space of possibly 7 days, which raised suspicions as to what exactly could be going on. But hey, the president was in Lagos. We didn't hear any remark, any response, any condolence from the government of the day. What does that tell you? Interesting, isn't it? Then the next thing, the presidency told us that the president has traveled out of the country. He was going to Europe, and from there he'll be going to Abu Dhabi because he was invited by the Sheikh. Next, we also heard that he was with Paul Kagame, and there was a picture. The picture was seen to be a Grok video, AI generated. Again, it is what is important to the government. I don't know if their priority is the same priority as Nigerians, but we must say that indeed, while the government of the day is focused on policy, on politics, and focusing ahead of 2027, insecurity has not gone unabated. In fact, it has become more radical, more brazen, and sporadic. Do you know that 4 days ago, ISWAP gave a threat, burned down 3 villages, saying they were Christian dominated? They also told us that if Christians in Nigeria do not convert to Islam, they will pay with their blood or they will pay a tax. As a Christian, you're literally a target for ISWAP. And they also disclosed to the Nigerian government that by telling them that they were in charge of that terrain, this happened in Adamawa State. 3 Christian villages burned down simultaneously. Do you know how many homes are in a village for you to burn down 3 different villages? Interesting, right? And the priority of the government of the day is 2027. Let's look at the scenario as well. Just yesterday, we heard about an attack in one of the states, I think in Niger State, that set a village ablaze, killed more than 40 people, abducted several others. Right? Interesting. In Kogi State too, they abducted 1 person and injured others, rustled cows. All right? That's not the only thing. In Kano State, an inspector was taken hostage along with others, and on camera they were beating them and they were seen begging for their lives for ransom to be paid. That's the order of the day in Nigeria. We haven't heard any response from the government. However, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu swiftly responded yesterday by ordering the Minister of Defense to immediately ensure that the victims in Niger State who were abducted be rescued as soon as possible. He engaged the Minister of Defense, the Minister of the Chief of Army Staff, as well as other top-ranking security operatives to collaborate very quickly and secure the release of those guys. Now, Sheikh Gumi has been deleting his tweets ever since according to him, he was told by an ally in Abuja that the US intends to kill him or take him out because of his remarks against them. So most of the tweets that Sheikh Gumi made against America, he has been deleting it and he hasn't stopped talking. Guess what? Sheikh Gumi said that Nigeria should better accept that Fulani cannot be erased. Fulani is here to stay. It's either they fight it out and come back to the negotiation table for certain deals to be done. In other words, what the government is doing to rout out insecurity and rout out Boko Haram, Sheikh Gumi is telling us that they are the Fulanis. Meanwhile, the Fulanis are saying that they should not ascribe all of them as terrorists. So why is Sheikh Kumi calling out Fulanis in this terrorist activity? Are you telling us that it is the Fulani ethnic group that are the ones destabilizing this nation? For you to brazenly tell us that the government of the day does likes it or not, they have to accept that Fulani is part of Nigeria. And if they refuse, there'll be war. And if the war doesn't take place, or if it does take place, then they will come back to the renegotiating table. Is Sheikh Kumi speaking for on behalf of all Fulanis, or he is speaking for himself? These are interesting times in Nigeria. While the APC is focusing on the ADC too is being told to make sure that they actually zone the ticket to the south. Who are the southern presidential aspirants in the ADC? Peter Obi and who? Amici, Rotimi Amici. But we've also heard that Kwankwaso may be joining the ADC to be the vice presidential candidate for any of the southern candidates. That is, if Atiku does not put his hat in the race and if Atiku does not win the primaries. Because if Atiku wins the primaries, you will definitely not be having a northern candidate as a vice. It will be zoned to a southern candidate. Obians are telling the ADC, we accept to be part of your primaries, but if you do not zone it and give it to Peter Obi, trust us, our hands are out. It will be better for Tinubu to continue. Now, Kwankwaso is saying that the deal he has with anyone or any political party he intends to have any alliance with is either he is the presidential candidate or the vice presidential candidate. And obviously, top positions should be given to those who would follow him into that party. He is not taking anything less than that. While the APC was trying to court him, we know that it's not possible for Kwankwaso to be taken as a vice because Tinubu's Muslim ticket actually caused the problem for him. So in 2026, Tinubu will need to look for a northern Christian candidate as his vice. It's obvious that Kashim Shettima may not run with Tinubu in 2027. If you've seen some of the campaign buses, the picture on those buses is only Tinubu and you're not seeing Shettima. So for now, Shettima has not been speaking. Nothing has been heard, but there are talks that indeed Tinubu may not be fielding Shettima as his vice for 2027. The Muslim ticket created chaos, doesn't pay results to the international community. It makes it seem like Nigeria is a Muslim country when Nigeria is not an Islamic nation. So these are some of the things to contend with for the APC. President Tinubu has set up a team to resolve any internal wrangling or conflict of interest within the All Progressives Congress so that they will come with a unified front ahead of 2027. The ADC will be holding its primaries very soon after INEC releases their guidelines and releases their timetable. Well, campaign will begin from November 2026. But before then, all the political parties interested needs to put their house in order. However, I would like to know what more conspiracy theories you think is going on with the APC and the ADC. 2, does it mean that Tinubu not being in the country while all of these dramatics are taking place? What does it mean? Is the president sick and we do not know? Number 3, while the president's media spokespersons present a grok AI image of Tinubu meeting with Paul Kagame, why would he do that? I mean, you could literally just show us real pictures. Why use grok? Why use AI? Again, these are questions to ask. While developments are unfolding, we would like to know, is Trump's foreign policy what is needed? Will Nigerians want Trump to do to what he did in Venezuela in Nigeria? Recall, again, we're a sovereign nation. Sometimes it's better for us to resolve our issues, but a lot of Nigerians feel that the government of the day is not repentant and they will continue to put their own interest above that of Nigerians. So, what would you advise? What will be your logical conclusion to all that has been highlighted here? Make sure you subscribe, like, and share to have yourself an amazing day. Bye for now.